Hi, Dick Rauscher here. Welcome back to the Stony Hill Nugget video. Today we're going to be talking about Stony Hill Nugget number 264. This is a nugget on fear, anger, and spiritual bankruptcy as we head into the 2016 elections here in November coming up. First of all, there are some realities that we need to recognize, okay? And these are not fun realities, but they are realities and we need to embrace them. We need to pay attention to them, basically. One is that there's a lot of fear and anger in our country, okay? We tend to be angry at political gridlock, ideological thinking that's got us, Congress totally locked up so nothing's happening. The middle class is disappearing and has been for almost 2 decades. Wall Street greed has been increasing in that same two-decade period. Poverty is increasing. People are struggling just to get by and make ends meet. And unfortunately, some of our politicians, in fact, a fair number of them, kind of look down on those who are working in poverty or living in poverty. They're labeled as unmotivated, lazy, etc. I don't believe that's true. I think people are struggling and they are trying to stay even with the board, but I think the system is kind of rigged against them. It's that philosophy that if you believe in the American dream, that's probably true, but you have to be sleeping to believe it, okay? It's kind of a humorous take on it, but I think it's true. The other big one that I think we really need to focus on is that most people did play by the rules. They worked, they paid their taxes, they paid their Social Security, they put money into the IRA, but then the system somehow failed them because a lot of their money disappeared in 2000 and another chunk of their money again disappeared in 2007. And a lot of people haven't recovered. They're not even back to where they were back in 2000, okay? So what's happened is that there's now a great fear of retirement. These are folks that are angry. They played by the rules and they've watched a good chunk of what they saved for retirement disappear. They never imagined that they were going to be poor or going into retirement underfunded. They thought they were playing by the rules. So there's a lot of anger in our country and we need to be paying a lot of attention to it. Why? Because we're losing faith in the system, the dream or the hope that the tomorrow will be better and that tomorrow will be better for not only us but for our children and the next generations, okay? We got a lot of issues that are going on, global warming, etc., that are really helping us to lose faith in the system. Politicians now, and I see this happening with Trump. I see it happening with a lot of the GOP Tea Party people. What they're doing is they're playing on emotions, okay? This is a very, very dangerous game. And the reason is because when human beings get emotional, they're hardwired to move into fight and flight mode, okay? We're hardwired to pay attention to emotions, to fear. When we're threatened, we react. It's right into our DNA, okay? And basically what happens is we shut down our ability to think rationally. Our emotions take over and we quit thinking rationally. Why is this dangerous, this whole system? Because the less rational thinking and the more emotional we're reacting or that we're using and embracing, the more we can be manipulated. When we are driven by emotions, we stop thinking and we become sheep. That increased manipulation is kind of where we're sitting emotionally as we head into the elections. So we need to think really carefully and pay attention to how we're being manipulated at an emotional level, because it's very, very dangerous for a democracy. Couple final points. I call all this anger and loss of hope and fear as kind of spiritual bankruptcy. And what I mean by that is that these emotions are shutting down our non-negotiable values, the values that this country was founded on. Free speech, all the values that are sacred and have been sacred for 200 years. We're really beginning to lose touch with those and lose faith in them. And as we do, we are losing our ability to be compassionate. We're increasing our focus on we and what's in it for us, and we're totally moving into a position of hate for anyone who is other than us. And us is an awfully big category. Unfortunately, it creates an awful lot of other, what I call other, which would be immigrants or Muslims or whomever, okay? And we convert them into a label. We begin to label and convert them into them or the enemy, okay? And again, a lot of our politicians are focusing on having you do that, because if they can get you frightened and scared and angry enough, you're not going to think when you pull that lever in the voting booth, okay? Which is exactly where they want you, because the more they can get you to react emotionally and think less rationally, then the more power they have to begin controlling the country, okay? So they really want you in that position of manipulation. They want you to be sheep. Don't play the game, okay? This article is about not playing the game. So one of the questions I would leave you is, what are the values that are sacred for you? What values do you want to pass on to your children? What do you want your children to grow up believing and valuing, holding sacred, okay? Because all of those, or a good many of them, are under attack right now. So a second question to ask is your focus going into the election on me and what's in it for me and my anger and my fear, etc.? Or are we focused on we? And the way I like to think about this is we have a circle, and inside that sacred circle are our values, okay? And a way to ask the question on whether we're focused on what's in it for me or what's in it for me or we is, who's inside our circle of compassion and who's outside? And do we really want people or other living systems that are outside of our compassion circle? So one of the questions is, who are we including in our compassion, and who are we excluding from our compassion? Okay? I think those are pretty important questions to ask and to wrestle with, because they help us to begin going back into a little bit more rational in our thinking and a little bit less knee-jerk, emotionally reactive thinking, okay? Remember, and this is a concept that I like to talk about a lot, and that is that our ego, especially our primitive ego, has a very unhealthy belief in our own importance. Okay, I've forgotten who said that. I think it was either Freud or Jung, but they made the point that our primitive ego, the ego that we begin developing even in childhood, has an unhealthy belief in our own importance. We need to keep that in mind when we walk into the voting booth, and who is in and who's outside our sacred circle.